Product slotting, that's the topic for this week. What the heck is it, you might ask? Well, if you're trying to improve productivity in your warehouse, you'll want to tune into this video coming right up. So on to the topic of product slotting, and with me this week again, welcome back John Monk. Welcome, John. Good to have you with us.
Hello, Rob, and everyone listening.
So John is one of our consultants at Logistics Bureau and specializes really in the area of warehousing. And product slotting is one of your specialist areas, John. So I know you've done this with loads of clients and loads of different warehouses all over the world. So let's start with a really basic question, because a lot of people haven't come across this. What exactly is product slotting?
So product slotting is determining the best place to put a particular product in a warehouse or distribution center. It's that concept of everything has its place and everything should be in its place. So it's really just deciding what's the best place for this particular product.
Okay,
it's as simple as that.
But it's a little bit more than kind of reorganizing the closet, isn't it? So what's the real aim here? What are some of the benefits?
Okay, so first of all, the main aim of product slotting in a warehouse, and usually where you get the most benefit, is to sort your products out by, we'll call it picking velocity, and placing those products that you pick very frequently closer to the next stage in the process, which is usually the staging area before they're dispatched. But it could be other areas like a packing station or a wrapper, but it's getting those fast-moving products close to those locations to reduce travel. And if we can reduce travel, we can do things quicker.
Excellent. And I know you've done this with a lot of different businesses and got some fairly astounding results. I mean, what sort of increases in productivity have you seen?
That's a really good question. I've asked this question before when I've been giving presentations on this, and actually the best I've heard of from one of the participants was over 40% reduction in travel. Myself, I typically see it anything from around 10% through to about 30%. That's usually the range, with a lot falling in around that 20% of the travel reduced.
Okay, so for anyone watching this, this sounds pretty simple. We can have a look at, you called it the sort of throughput velocity of different products, but maybe another term that people might be familiar with would be a Pareto. So the most
That's
popular
right.
products in your warehouse, so we'll call them the A's. So let's work out where all the A's are and let's shove them into our pick slots down near dispatch. Is it that simple?
Pretty much is that simple, other than to say, if you just look at A, B's and C's, which is obviously, if you're not looking at that, that's a big step forward, would be, it's the granularity of, within the A's, you can further break the A's down into A, B and C, if you like, and break them down further. So it's the granularity of that frequency of pick. So it's probably just a little more than A, B and C, but A, B and C will certainly improve enormously the reduction in travel. So that it is to some degree. If you're not doing it now, then, and you're I suppose symptoms of an overfull warehouse was just putting product wherever it fits, then if you took a snapshot of the A, B's and C products, they'd be like a mosaic. It would be quite scattered. Whereas what we want to do is concentrate without causing congestion. We want to concentrate those A's down closer to the dispatch area, if it's a standard type of warehouse.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of traps that sometimes people fall into here, isn't there? So I always think of a great analogy of product slotting as being the fridge. When you open the fridge door, what's in the fridge door? It's your fast-moving products. It's the milk,
like
the eggs, maybe the cheese or whatever.
Yep.
But putting all of those fast-moving products together, say in the same aisle, the same sort of zone of picking, can cause problems, particularly with sort of larger product ranges, can't it?
Well, it can, depending on how big the operation is. If you've got a lot of pickers, you don't want them all presenting themselves to the first fast moving pick slot at the same time, because you just end up with them tripping over themselves and getting congestion. But a smaller business, that's probably okay, because you just don't have the pickers to get in the way of each other. So, you know, it's one thing to look at from a size of business. So the bigger businesses, often what we'll do is we will look at strategies of spreading, still keeping those products closer to the staging area, but we'll be spreading them across some of the aisles so that we don't end up with everyone trying to hit the fastest moving product all at once.
Okay. So is there, you talked about bigger businesses there, is there a sweet spot? So, you know, maybe if I've got a really small business, I can kind of work this out on a whiteboard or a spreadsheet. You know, at what point do I need to get really sophisticated and start using specialist software? Is it 500 SKUs, 1,000 SKUs, or is it more about the velocity rather than the number of SKUs?
Look, I think if you've got fewer SKUs, there's probably a better chance that you can do it within some sort of spreadsheet. You know, get the frequency of picking over a period of time. You know, perhaps the last 3 months. I often take the sales demand data and look at the daily frequency of picking particular SKUs. Obviously, the more SKUs you've got, you know, the bigger that task becomes, and you know, it comes down to your comfort level around spreadsheets and how big they get. The other thing with the specialist software, as distinct from a spreadsheet, is a spreadsheet lends itself to what I call linear placement of the product, like down the pick path. That's easy enough to do, whereas they don't really lend themselves to what we call non-linear product placement. So that might be taking a center of gravity approach, where the bins are equidistant away across a warehouse from that center of gravity, which again might be the staging area. So sorting those bins out in that fashion is a lot more difficult to do, and that's where the software comes into play, because it can handle those different sorts of non-linear approaches.
Yeah, there's another element to this, I guess, which would be quite difficult to do on a spreadsheet, and that's that the more complex the warehouse, this is really a three-dimensional exercise as well, isn't it?
Yes.
I can remember many moons ago when I was doing my master's degree in logistics, there was a guy doing a PhD, and his PhD was on algorithms for pick paths. You know, so it's not just in sort of 2 dimensions, it's 3, because you're going up and down, you know, in height as well, and so there are sweet spots vertically and horizontally in the warehouse.
Yeah, if you're doing multi-level pick slots, then that's to consider. But you know, rule of thumbs would be the less that someone goes up, you know, it's going to save time. So and exactly. If you keep the fast moving SKUs closer to I suppose the start and finish of the pick, which is again the staging area usually, then that's where you'll save time. But there's other criteria that you can apply to product slotting, which is again where the software comes into play, where you will have multiple different criteria. An example of that might be you want to pick things in like I'll call it heavy things first. So there's the speed, but then there's a quality aspect you may need to consider. Or an alternative might be you want to look at pallet stability. So a supermarket, for example, you know, they want to build the pallet to a certain cube so that it travels well to the retail store. And so again, you know, that might be a criteria that you're looking at, or you might want to look at a couple of these criteria like cascading type sort, which you can do in spreadsheets, but the software does lend itself to these type of problems and saves you time, because every time in a spreadsheet you sort of got to create a new spreadsheet, whereas once you've built a model in software, you then all you have to really do is refresh the data and rerun the algorithms that you've already developed. And
you use a couple of different tools for doing this, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. So if someone's watching this and they're thinking, oh, that sounds like a worthwhile thing to do, but I don't know whether I would get the benefit or not, or how do I know that I need to slot my warehouse? I mean, what are some of the symptoms?
Okay, so that's a really good question.
You know, if this is happening, okay, I should investigate slotting.
Yep. I think one telltale sign is maybe calculate some of those ASKUs and just work out where they're currently placed, and just sort of say, well, is it as close as possible as it could be
Okay.
to the front of the other really telltale sign is when you go for a walk and you see dust on top of products.
Oh,
But
yes.
so
John's white glove
you
test.
do the white glove test, and you find that you've got product, and I've seen this too many times, where we see like I call it it's almost that golden zone, this premium space that you've got slow moving stock in, and you're slow moving because it's got dust on it, and you don't
Should be down
need
the
to
back or up high.
yeah, well, exactly, and we'll perhaps talk about that in some of the other webinars that we do, some of those other ways that you can create space. But definitely that's the sort of thing. I'd either get a couple and test it, or have a look around and see whether you got dust or not.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's a great sort of summary of what slotting is all about, John. Thank you for that. As always, we'll try and provide some extra resources for you. So if you look down below the video in the video description, and if I remember, I'll put it in the comments as well, but in the video description, we'll put links there to a couple more videos where John explains this in a lot more technical detail. And if you're watching this and going, oh yeah, we need some help with slotting, I'll put a link down there as well where you can reach out and talk to John about getting some slotting done. So thanks for joining us, John. Always interesting to hear your thoughts.